Special good night to all our viewers here on Caribbean American News Media Platform. Folks, it's a pleasure being here with you. It is 7:13 p.m. in our neck of the woods, and I know in the Eastern Caribbean, somewhere in the Eastern Caribbean, it is 8:13. Greetings, my friends. It's good to see many of you logging in. Those of you over on the YouTube channel, we want to greet you. Welcome, welcome, welcome to those of you on Facebook. Continue to share the live as you come in. We have our special guests here with us. So please, friends, share the live, tag a friend, let them know that we're on here at Caribbean American News Media Platform. Folks, it's a pleasure. It's a pleasure to have you here with us tonight, all right? Just bear with us. We trying to share the platform. We have persons who are eagerly awaiting the platform, but you need to have your signal on, your notification bell. It should have been on, folks. Greetings, greetings, greetings. How are you, my people? How was your day? Hope all is well. Last night we had a beautiful session with the opposition leader, Mr. Alan Shastney of St. Lucia, and the opposition leader there in Trinidad and Tobago. Yes, and what a night it was. We have a crime problem in the nations, and Trinidad is no exception there. A lot of stuff happening. Also in St. Lucia, we know that we have a major, major, major problem. Folks, with me tonight is our special guest. He is here with us, Dr. Powell. But before, let me just introduce him officially because, just reading about Dr. Powell, my friend, I am just nervous, and I'm a crime-fighting man, and I'm here nervous after reading, a little history on Dr. Powell. But we're so happy to have him here with us. Let's just go over to our intro that will be done by one of our brothers, all right?
Dr. Edwin Witt Powell of Washington, D.C. was born and raised in Chase City, Virginia. He received a B.A. in psychology from Rutgers University, M.A. in gerontology from Notre Dame, Med. in psychology from Howard University, M.A. in counseling from Liberty University, M.A. in curriculum and instruction, and a doctorate in educational psychology from George Mason University. Dr. Powell received an honorary doctorate in humane letters, honoris causa from Essex College for his work in human rights and education. He is also the recipient of the St. Lucia National Medal of Honor, Gold, for his work in national security. He has research interests and publications in education, disability advocacy, health equity, mental health, and law. He is a former Human Rights Commissioner, government analyst, special education teacher, juvenile probation officer, and high school principal. He is a former educational psychologist and faculty member at Howard University College of Medicine. He held faculty appointments in the Department of Pediatrics, Child Health, and the Department of Community Family Medicine, while also serving as a research associate on the geriatric research team in the Department of Internal Medicine. Dr. Powell is currently appointed as a mental health expert with the District of Columbia Superior Court, an international human rights advocate and consultant, serves on numerous boards and commissions. He is married to Dr. Elizabeth V. Hobson Powell, and they have 4 adult children: Latoya, Ty, Quinn, and Reed.
Thank you so much. Yes, my friends, and I introduce to you our honored guest, Dr. Powell. By the way, he also served as the senior special advisor for on national security to the Prime Minister, the Honorable Terence Dew of St. Kitts and Nevis. So Dr. Powell is well experienced, and listen to me, Reverend. If I was the government of St. Lucia or any government at all, I would want to listen to him. All right, I would. And tonight we are going to listen to Dr. Powell. Our phone lines are open, but we're going to allow him to introduce himself a little more to us, and we can take it from there. Dr. Powell, welcome to the platform.
Thank you. Thank you very much for having me, brother. It's a pleasure to be here with you, and good night to all of the listeners and persons who are participating through various platforms. You know, I don't want to sound as if I'm the person with all of the answers, because have a systemic problem here in the Caribbean as it relates to crime and violence. And I shouldn't say just in the Caribbean, but around the world. But when it comes to the diaspora, we have a serious problem here in the Caribbean. As I mentioned a few seconds ago, I don't have all the answers, but I believe that there are ways in which we can curb crime and violence in the Caribbean. We have to work. We have to be headstrong about it. We have to be consistent about what we do, and we just cannot give up to criminals. We cannot give up to organized crime. And so I'm glad to be here tonight. I want to hold a very lucrative and substantive discussion, bar none, about what we can do to actually make the Caribbean the paradise, to continue to make the Caribbean the paradise that it really is.
Yes, Dr. Powell, and indeed, the Caribbean was once known as, a beautiful uh, place where you can walk around, you can enjoy the beaches, you can go out at night. And what we saw for the past few years is an increase of gang activities, criminal activities in the country. And it seems to me that we have these gang leaders targeting our young children in the schools, our young children in the
Yes.
schools. And just in St. Lucia alone, for this year alone, we have had 20 dead young brothers as a result of gun violence. This year
Yes.
alone in St. Lucia. What is the trend? What is happening? Based on your experience, what is happening in the Caribbean or in the world right now? Well, let's look at the Caribbean.
Let's focus regionally, because if we were to compare the Caribbean to, say, the East Coast of the United States of America, it would be unfair to do so. But there are some commonalities, and some of the commonalities is the influx of narcotics.
Mm,
The influx of narcotics. If you go back and you go and look at most of the criminal statistics, in and around June is when you see the peak. The peak of criminal activity, especially homicide rates, go up extremely high, especially so in the States because it's summertime. In the Caribbean, those spikes go up the exact same way as well. When in fact the Caribbean has a even temperature or even climate throughout the whole entire year. We also have to take into account, and if you go back, if you look at it from a micro perspective, and you go and look at when number one, when coca plants uh, actually blossom, bloom, and bear what we consider as the illicit drug itself. And once that actually gets into the market, once it gets into the marketplace, what it does, it has a cascading effect across the entire world. Now, criminal gangs and criminal networks. Now, I don't want to get into this and we start going left. I want to focus this very centered on gang organized criminal activity, what we call gangsters. Now, a lot of individuals throughout the Caribbean consider themselves as Bloods and Crips, and some in certain areas outside of Trinidad and Tobago would consider themselves as Six and Seven. None of them, hosts, have even been uh, legitimately uh, jumped in or considered a gang member, because here in the States, number one, gangs began back well in the 1920s, and it started off with Irish gangs and so forth. So I want to go back into the history of gangs, but it was organized.
Mm-hmm.
They had a core values, core interests. Here you see people who call themselves gangsters don't have those same core values. What they're doing is what they're doing is are watching YouTube. They're watching videos. They're watching movies, and what they're doing is they're actually somewhat appropriating gang lifestyles. When in fact, it was never in the Caribbean. We're seeing styles, people, the way people dress now in the Caribbean, something they appropriated from Canada, Great Britain, and the United States. So a lot of this violence is actually being imported into our region by way of appropriations. And so it's sad, but it's true. Our children are pretty much vulnerable to certain things, most especially the media, most especially mass culture, most especially music that we see, music videos, and they try to emulate. They try to emulate any and everything that they see that's actually being propagated in New York or Los Angeles or London or Toronto. And so that's the first problem. Is the identity problem itself by picking up other people's cultures and running with it.
That's right.
When in fact, what we have to do. My father was Jamaican, had a Jamaican
Mm.
background, strong Jamaican background, and so I've always considered myself as being a West Indian. But what we have to do is we have to fight back. We have to have a counterculture that fights back at the majority culture that's reaching in and destroying our children and essentially destroying our small country or our small island cultures.
Right, and I'm glad you mentioned the influence of these bigger countries, well, through the media, of course, and what these young people are seeing in the media. I mean, it is something that, for me, I am concerned about for my daughter, who is even here in the United States. But the problem is that many of these developing states in the Caribbean are not ready for what is before them. They are not equipped to deal with, and so you will hear some government in the Caribbean saying, well, we give the police more vehicles or we give them more guns and we will continue to give them more equipment to take care of this problem. But do you believe that more guns and more vehicles is the solution to this major crime problem, not only in St. Lucia, but throughout the Caribbean?
No, I don't think we can't single-handedly use vehicles, patrols, uh, you know, vehicle stop and searches, bringing more ammunition, bringing more guns, and putting them in the hands of police officers. That's not going to solve the problem. What's going to solve the problem is a systemic approach to tackling this issue, and that's starting with early childhood education.
Mm.
And the Bible says very clearly, if we teach a child when they're young, when they grow old, they won't depart from those ways. And if we develop character education programs, start throwing them into our schools. Now, mind you, the ones who are gone left already, 18, 19, and 20, we have to admit at some point that we've lost some within this particular generation.
Yeah.
We have to admit that. Because if we don't admit that, then what we're doing is we're being disingenuous. But what we have to do is invest in the younger generation. Let's put some character development programs in these schools. Let's brainwash our kids the same way that mass media has brainwashed the older generation. Let's brainwash them that when a person falls down and breaks a hand or bloodies their nose, that's nothing to laugh at. That a good person with good character would run to that person, would have some pro-social skills and say, "Are you okay?" and be genuinely about that. Let's have some persons that develop some character development when we see bullying in schools, that kids will come to the aid of a bully and also to the aid of the victim. Now, did you hear what I just said? Come to the aid of the bully
Bully.
as well as coming to the aid.
That's right.
And we also need character education, brothers, in our schools that will teach our young children that we respect our elderly. We respect our elderly. It'll also teach our young people that when you come out of a store and you have a piece of paper in your hand, instead of dropping it on the ground, walk 2 feet to the trash can and drop it inside of the trash can. It's just so many things that we can teach our children when they're young that will actually embed in them, that it will imprint on their brains, that when they grow older, they won't depart from those ways. And another one is not picking a gun up,
Mm.
not using drugs, not distributing drugs, not being a part of contraband or the illicit distribution of contraband. Those are the things we should be teaching to our young people at a very early age. And a lot of people say, well, these kids are young right now. But you and I both know that here in the United States of America, we have children 8, 9, 10 years of age who are actually perpetrating carjackings and so forth and so on.
That's
So
right.
when do we start? We
Mm.
start younger. We start younger and we start imprinting on the
Mm.
minds of these young people early that there is a right way and there's a wrong way. And that's what we walked away from, is teaching children right from wrong. We're so hell bent. And as a former principal, we're so hell bent on test scores and seeing who can outperform each other, which school can outperform, which district can outperform, which state can outperform, which country can outperform, instead of teaching our kids good moral, good values, and good scruples. And that's what we backed away from, my brother. And that's exactly what we have to go back to.
That's right. I just want to piggyback on coming to the aid of the bully. Could you explain a little more to us?
You said the age
Aid.
to aid a
Coming to,
bully?
yes, coming
Yes.
to, yes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's something called the Johari's window. The Johari's window is simply this. A person may not necessarily see how he or she is, but when a person looking inside that window can tell you, I can see inside your house and I can see things aren't going that well. And so that's a person walking up to a bully and saying, bro, I think that hurt. I think that hurt his feelings. You didn't have to go that way. You didn't have to, dig him that deep. I mean, why are you treating him that way? Why would you like to be treated that way? And then somehow it requires that person to do some type of introspection. Now, I'm not asking someone to walk up to a person with a gun in their hand and start trying to psychoanalyze the
That's
brother.
right.
But there are influences. Whenever there are bullies, actually, oftentimes the bully has a bully pulpit. That's why he actually bullies. He or she actually bullies because he has persons who laughs at what he or she does.
Mm.
And so if persons inside that bully pulpit will come down off of their high horses, understand what bullying does to the psyche of an individual, and then go to the person, which is oftentimes the bully is oftentimes the weakest one in the group, and trying to get social status in the larger group by acting out and being that person to do what other people in the group, the stronger ones in the group, won't do. So that's what we have to do. If we can get our younger kids at a very young age to understand that that's wrong, that type of behavior is wrong. When I was teaching this at Howard Medical School, and I was teaching in the Department of Pediatrics, and one of the first questions on the prosocial scale is when a person is hurt or falls, what do you? This is a questionnaire for parents. What does your child do usually? And oftentimes, parents would say, "Oh, he would run to us and he would, be very, considerate. Are you okay, mommy? Did you hurt yourself?" But there are some parents who've told me that the kid actually laughs, and that's not a
Mm.
good sign.
No.
That's not a good sign. Very early on, prosocial skills determines has a very strong determinant of that child's personality. And so what we have to do as educators, as law enforcement, as people in national security and intelligence, is we have got to start looking at prosocial skills. Early childhood experiences too, my brother, are as important as anything I've said, anything that has parted my lips tonight. A child's experience, the social determinants of health, whether a child is born in poverty, whether a child is born in a family where there's abuse and neglect, where a child is born in a family where the mother is being beat every night or the father is being beat every night. What it does, it creates a system of just stressors in the life of that child. And I think that Dr. Terrence Drew, the Honorable Dr. Terrence Drew, oftentimes quote a gentleman in the Caribbean who he once met, who says that a damaged child, a damaged child is a dangerous adult.
Mm.
A damaged child will become a dangerous adult. And he never lied when he said that. And we have got to start having these conversations where we have countries whose populations are so low, but when you look at the crime rate and the murder rate per capita, and we're just sitting back, just policing, thinking, and addressing the problem in a 19th century way
Mm.
when we're already in the 21st century, and we have to do better.
Wow, wow, wow. So I'm agreeing with you that we need to. It seems to me that we got to start with the home. There's a breakdown
Definitely.
in the home, and when you have children having children, then that is an even bigger problem in the society when it comes to crime and indiscipline. What is your thoughts
It is.
on? And I mean, those of us with eyes can see that we have a major problem with the family, the home, the breakdown there, and
Yes.
and these parents, by the way, expect the government and the police to step in and discipline those kids. But
Exactly.
by the time it gets to the police and the government, sometimes it's gone too far.
Exactly. And then let's be fair about that too. Oftentimes the kids are out of control, and then when government does step in, police does step in, then the parents, they blame the police, they blame the government,
Yeah.
when in fact they've lost control. And so yes, there's a breakdown of institutions across the spectrum. When you look at Yuri Brofenbrenner, Yuri Brofenbrenner had what we call an ecology, basically a behavior ecology that had concentric circles, in every circle, larger circles around the other. The center one is the individual family. Then you have around that, you have church, you have
Mm.
community, you have government. Around that, in schools and so forth and so on. But when we look at that first concentric circle, number one, the individual has broken down
Yeah.
because of lack of structure in family. We have kids who just walking up in houses cursing, kids walking up in houses smoking joints, smoking weed. No, not even being challenged by parents. But it goes back to your question the point that you made a second ago, is that we have babies raising babies. So when you have a baby that's raised, a younger child who's raising babies, they haven't matured enough to understand that there's a value system in raising children, that you have to teach children morals, and you have to
Mm.
kids have to follow these particular values, because if and the value system is important, because the value system is, what do you value? Do you value cursing in the street? Do you value dirty streets? Do you value crime? Do you value this versus that? And what I would say is, young kids value things that are much more detrimental to society than what's in the best interest of society. A child would walk down the street, or kids would walk down the street, and they will witness a murder
Yeah.
and will tell you, I'm not going to snitch.
Yeah.
Now, what is that when you want to talk about value system? What you've done is you valued your reputation and you valued yourself over the life of another person.
Yeah.
That says something. That says something when it comes to values, my brother. We've got to do better, man. We've got to do better. And it's not only snitches, anti-snitching in the Caribbean, it's anti-snitching across the world. And guess where we got it from? Pop culture, from music. Something that what they've done is glamorize music, and everything inside that music they've learned. Now think about this. What if we can get Jay-Z? What if we can get Drake? What if we can get a lot of these other popular people, popular um, entertainers, to come in and say, okay, register to vote. For every person to register to vote, I'll give
Mm-hmm.
you a free ticket to my concert. For every person who registers to vote,
Mm.
or gets an A on their or gets honor roll on a report card, text me. I'm gonna give you a shout out on Facebook. I'm gonna give you a shout out on social media. What are they doing, my man? It's things that they can do. There are things that they can do that can help change the trajectory of what we're facing these days. You know, Burner Boy. I mean, come on, brother. We as persons inside of national security, person inside of intelligence, person inside of law enforcement, we can only do but so much. We can do the community policing, but there's a carrot and stick approach to community policing,
Yeah.
where you're out there in the community and you're saying to the young people, look, I'm here to support you. But and I tell them all the time, I'm here to support you. But if I catch you in the commission of a felonious crime, then I'm going to arrest you. I'm going to make sure that you're arrested. But we also have pop culture. We also have people, entertainers, who have this anti-popo culture
Mm.
that police are bad people.
Yeah.
You feel me? When in fact there are some bad cops. There's
Yes.
10% in everything.
Yeah.
If
Yeah.
you go and buy a bushel of corn, my brother, 10% is going to be probably unedible,
That's right.
inedible.
Even sweet
You
potato.
know, that's a 10% rule. You know,
Yes.
so
Yes.
but to have persons in pop culture and to have the music industry and having record companies propagate this, I think in and of itself is just as disheartening as the acts that are actually committed on the streets.
Because what and I like your point on the type of music that we have introduced to our children even from a young age, and by the way, you have governments who pay those guys millions of dollars to come into the country to destroy the minds of their own citizens, and then
Yeah.
they turn back and they wonder what is going on. Where's this gang culture coming from? Where is all this this decadence? Where is it coming from? But
Well, I
and,
tell you,
go ahead, sir.
yeah, and you're absolutely right. But I will say this: the Honorable Dr. Terrence Drew actually does. If you're coming into St. Kitts and Nevis to
Mm,
perform, then you're coming to perform to a rated G audience, a
yeah.
rated family audience. Yeah. And what you need to do is you need to go back and look at some of the recent headlines in terms of persons who weren't allowed to come and perform inside the country because of the values that he's trying to actually project inside of the Federation. He's very young leader, a very learned leader. He's very fair, but he's very smart. He's
Mm,
ahead of his time. And so and if you see him face to face, he would tell you that I'm not a kisser. I promised him when I first joined this administration that I would always tell him the truth.
mm,
And so my giving him accolades is not by in no way, shape, or form or fashion trying to kiss up to him.
right.
Because
That's
anyone who's ever worked with me inside the Caribbean know that I'm a straight shooter. I'm a fair person, I'm an honest person, and I'm a genuine person. But I'm not a person who's just to go along just to get along.
wow. I'm a little speechless there with Saint Kitts and Nevis. I mean, wow. So from the government um, side of it, the government is protecting their citizens, basically, the children, the young people, by saying, hey, if we're going to bring you in, then got to be appropriate for the children, for
Yeah,
families.
yeah, Dr. Drew calls it citizen security. That's what it is. It starts there.
This is big.
It starts there. It's citizen security. I mean, it's how can we struggle with violence and crime, and then we bring in individuals who don't share the same direction that we're going.
Yes.
We're heading north. The North Star is peace and tranquility. We know for a fact that I don't care where you are, even from the beginning of time, there's been chaos when it comes to loss of life. But there's a North Star, and the North Star in the Federation of St. Kitts and Nevis is peace and tranquility. It's making sure we are incentivized by the fact that tourism is more than 60% of the GDP. We are incentivized by the fact that persons coming in off of boats and off of planes deserve to have safety and peace once they step foot into the Federation and start partaking of the culture. And so it has to start. It has to start. Every institution has to understand that we play a vital role in the peace and tranquility of the Federation. And so we've had our up years in terms of violence and so forth and so on. We're starting to put together a brother. When I tell you, it is a interweaved plan that I guarantee you in 5 to 10 years it's going to be fail proof. And individuals within the region is going to be looking back at what St. Kitts and Nevis has done in writing books and writing research papers on it because it's working. I think it needs some fine tuning now. Now, are we going to be homicide free from here into perpetuity? Absolutely not.
No.
That's not what I'm saying.
All right.
But what I'm saying is that we have a formula in place, and we're starting to we know what the calculus is, and we're starting to work on solving these problems.
Wow, wow, wow. I'm beginning to like St. Kitts and Nevis. I have a lot of friends from that country. What is the crime rate there like?
Well, the crime rate, any crime rate is extremely high.
Yeah.
But if you go back and you look at I think I haven't even really kept count of it, but I think we're under four homicides since the
Four?
beginning of the year. Four, yes, yes, close to four, something in and around that. And again, as special advisor for national security, I don't even focus on it. What I focus on is engaging the community, engaging persons who are engaged in organized crime, engaging schools. I just on Friday had a conference with student leaders from over 80 students from the high schools, the secondary schools across the Federation, and talking about their responsibilities. We talked about the psychology of justice. You know, that's what the topic was all about, the psychology of justice and in empowering them to be change agents and leaders for the future. I don't focus on the crime rate either because I'm knocking on doors and sitting on the front porch with old ladies and older gentlemen saying, "What can I do in this community? Have you heard gunshots? Have you seen anything that looks suspicious? What can I do to help make you feel comfortable in your community?" I go to establishments and so forth and so on, my brother. Not some of the plush ones, the high brand hotels and so forth, but I go to some of those rum joints and
Yeah.
sitting there and having conversation with people. Because we have to meet people where they are.
That's right.
If we
That's
don't
right.
meet people where they are, and we get bougie on them, then what they do is they'll call you out. They'll call you out. And see, that's how administrations fall, and that's how parties lose and don't ever retrieve their credibility. Is because what we do is we'll walk to people. We'll go to people when we need them in and around election time. But when elections are over, then we forget from whence we've come. You feel me? So that's what we have to do. We have to be true.
Yeah.
We have to be real, and we have to be righteous, because persons know when when you're faking and when you're not. And so we're doing our best, man. We're doing our best in the Federation to really change the mindset of young people. Really form good character in our younger people. Um, Also, Dr. Drew has looked at the crime in public health.
Mm.
When we have youth violence across the world that's outpacing, and when you look at actuarial science, when you start looking at insurance companies, because insurance companies make money off of, when you die,
Yeah.
they know they're the ones to do in the actuarial science, tell you how long you're going to live and so forth and so on, and do insurance policies. But when you look at those actuarial scientific statistics, and they are saying that young black men are dying in the streets by way of violence, and it's outpacing diabetes mellitus,
Mm.
outpacing cardiovascular disease. All of those things, my brother. And not to mention the age groups in their 20s. You go and look across the Caribbean. You go and look across the states. Young black men are dying at a disproportionate rate.
Yeah.
At a disproportionate rate.
Yeah.
Now, I'm not saying that just to piggyback off your question, because your initial question, mind you, well, should we have guns? Is guns, patrols and cars, vehicles? The answer, yes, they are. We need a medley of crime fighting. We need a medley of training, continuous training of our police officers, and that training doesn't necessarily have to be house clearing and interdiction land and sea, which we do quite a bit.
Yeah.
But we also need to train our people, our police officers, how to deal with the public, how to de-escalate, so that we're not out there pulling guns out on mentally ill persons, but finding ways to verbally, softly de-escalate a situation where it could oftentimes turn deadly. You know, so there needs to be a balanced approach to law enforcement, to national security, but most importantly, police officers need equipment, they need the technology, and they need intelligence. And so alongside that, and alongside what other agencies are doing, what social services are doing to making sure that young people are being fed and not coming to school hungry, what that there no abuse and neglect inside of the homes and so forth
Yeah.
and so on. What youth engagements are doing to create after school programs and extracurricular activities for our kids to keep them on the field and out of the hands of organized criminals.
And
So
even
those are the
feeding
balanced approaches.
programs. Yeah.
Yes, indeed.
Yeah.
Yes, indeed, brother. There you go.
Yeah.
So we have work to do, but the answers are right in front of us. What we're afraid to do is we're afraid to counter what we consider this generation is out of control. Some people, I'm not saying nothing to these kids; they're out of control. That's the wrong
That's
approach.
right. Yeah.
We have to counter it, brother. We can't let that go.
And
We cannot let that go.
time is against us. We must take on this challenge now and head on.
Head on.
And it's possible to make some headway with this type of community that we're seeing now, where, as you said, young people, they're just lawless. Not only young people, adults too. They throw things out their windows, they litter. There's a garbage bin in front of them, they throw it on the floor, and they have no regards for law and order.
Tar.
And I believe what you just said is that our governments need to be real with the citizens or the citizenry that they lead as a government. And you're right, we have seen it over and over and over again, not only in St. Lucia, but other countries of the Caribbean, where during an election season, all politicians and aspiring politicians out there feeding the hungry and building homes and patching roads and doing a lot of stuff. And as soon as that season is done, back to normal. And so the people now look at them like, there's no hope. Same old, and you hear it every day. Same thing, same thing. Let's just wait
Right.
for election season. We'll get a $500. We'll get a little something. And,
Yeah.
and many of them are just immune now. They're just like, and politicians understand that.
Yeah.
And so they
You're
play
right.
on the minds of the people while ignoring a growing problem.
You're right. You're right.
And then when
You
it
know,
is
and
ripe, there is no cure. They scramble, they throw everything at the wall, hoping that something will stick.
yeah, yeah, yeah. When I was in St. Lucia, and the persons from from special branch can tell you who served as my close protection officers, but also from the PWA. I
Mm.
interacted with the community. I didn't care about how who this organized criminal was. I simply just approached him and told the truth.
Yeah.
You know, no one, I'm sure that the opposition leader and also the current prime minister will tell you that I personally earned that St. Lucia Medal of Honor of Gold for the work that I did there.
So you
Because
worked with Miss. Sorry. So you worked with the United Workers Party, Alan Chastney.
I was actually working in the as a national security advisor to Herman Gill Francis at the time,
Oh,
and
good man.
and but also the current prime minister will tell you that right after I came onto the island, I came directly to him because
Oh,
I didn't want to be I didn't want to be involved in being in
in the
this
political.
this the tribalism
Yep.
and the polarization because I was
Mm-hmm.
there for a reason, not for the season.
Yeah.
I was there for a reason,
That's
and
right.
I needed everybody's help. I needed everybody's help. And Prime Minister Pierre would tell you, he tell you that I came to him first. Said, "Sir, I'm here." I also came to Miss Francis,
Mm.
the person who's the most outspoken when it comes to human rights. And
Yes.
I asked her, would you please just bless what I'm trying to do? And she gave me her blessing. She says, Dr. Powell, we sat down, we talked for a while, and she says, you have my blessings. And so I didn't come there to divide. I came there to unite.
Yeah.
And so, and we got a lot of stuff done. You go and you talk to persons on the Royal St. Lucia Police Force, and I'll tell you, I was a uniter, not a divider. Now I told the truth.
Yeah.
I'm gonna always tell the truth. And sometimes my delivery, I may admit this. Sometimes my delivery may not be the best, but it's all in good faith, in from my heart, because I am a strong believer that as black people, brother, we don't need we don't need other people. And I'll say this: we don't need Europeans who have caused the problems to help us fix this problem. We've got to unite and know that the problem didn't begin with us. It began a long time ago
Yeah.
as a result of just colonization and so forth and so on. The hatred, the self-hatred of ourselves because of the system that we were under. And as a result of that, we're in the predicament that we're in now. We don't like who we are. We try to be this person or that person because of the self-hatred that was instilled in us. So, so it's work to be done. I think that CARICOM has the platform for it. I just think that we just need to persons just need to loosen their ties. Our leaders need to loosen their ties and sit down and find a way to solve problems across the region.
Yep. 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 Wow. I was not aware that you did all that work there in St. Lucia. And wow, wow, wow. Have you ever heard of the impacts report?
Yes, I was brought there as a result of the impacts report, the alleged extrajudicial killings.
Mm-hmm.
And so that was the reason why I actually came there. I actually came afterwards. But you have all this, because of the work, whenever you're doing something right, sometimes person will always try to find something wrong about what you're doing.
Yeah.
And so what's going around now is just some perpetration. I was a part of the impacts report. I was a part of the extrajudicial killings. But that's what weak people do when they
Yeah.
see a strong movement.
That's right.
But yes, I came there as a result of the work that I did, and the government can attest to this. Some of the Leahy sanctions were actually lifted, because the embassy in Barbados saw the work that was being done. Not only saw that the training that was done on behalf of what we were doing with the police department, but also just a change in culture across the board, the change in how police officers looked at certain things, and so I won't sit here and talk too much about it because
Yeah.
I've not released the report publicly,
I
That's
was going
something
to
you have to
ask
do.
you whether the report was public. It was presented to the people of St. Lucia.
No, it was never presented. As a matter of fact, afterwards, the government changed and priorities changed too.
Yeah.
And no slight against it, because that's what happens. Priorities change, and promises that you make, you put certain things on the back burner. And so, but there is there's some things that I observed, that I thought would be useful. But I think in time, that report would be available, and we
You
can.
believe that the
Yeah,
people of St. Lucia, because I've always been hearing the press, um, uh, news agencies questioning this impacts report that, by the way, have impacted law enforcement,
mhm.
to a certain extent, and there are a lot of people with shadows hanging over them as a result. And so some of the police, they're not willing to give 100%, to do what they got to do, lest they
Yeah,
be labeled as killing people, innocent people, and blah, 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 blah. And so the police now, they're like, as if they're in a straight jacket, because nobody is doing anything about that report to bring
yeah,
clarity, to free the hands of the police, to keep the
mhm,
citizens of the country safe. And I think that's a bad
yeah,
thing, though.
yeah. I think that anything that's mystic, anything that's hidden,
Mm,
is mystical to people.
yeah,
You have clubs who have uh, secret initiations, and because people don't know about them, they say that they're satanic and so forth and so on. So you make up things about things which you don't know
don't
about.
know.
You know what I'm
That's
saying?
right.
Yeah. And so I think that the report is simple. I just think that what the government probably needs to do is the government just needs to act on it. The government can't depend on Canada or the U.S. or UK
Mm,
to administer its justice.
yeah,
It needs to look at the report and administer its own justice,
that's
its
right.
own local justice. And once you've done that, what country can actually fault you for that? You administered your own justice.
That's right.
You know,
That's right.
whether you've investigated it, you disposed of this, you have the evidence before you. If you decide to put some type of council in place, or some type of tribunal in place to look at the evidence and then move it on, and DPP gets involved, AG gets involved, courts get involved, and just move it out of the way, because right now it's just a dark spot, it's a dark hole, a
That's
mystical
right.
hole
That's right.
that people are looking down and saying, oh yeah, that I see bunnies in there, I see boogeymans down in there, when in fact it's simple. It just needs to be exposed and let the country move on.
That's
I'm
right.
a citizen. I'm a citizen, a dual citizen of the United States, and a proud dual citizen of St. Kitts and Nevis. But I'm gonna tell you something, brother. It's St. Lucia has a place in my heart that that that
Wow.
um that other islands outside of St. Kitts and Nevis don't have, my brother. So I
Wow.
I I,
Wow.
I I love that country dearly,
and
dearly.
and I'm sure the people of St. Lucia, they appreciate your openness, your honesty in the discussion, Dr. Powell. But I don't want to spend a lot of time on the impacts report, but I do not believe, in my humble opinion, that the governments of St. Lucia are willing to do what it takes to bring an end to this dark spot called the impacts report. And that's a problem. It is a problem. If we're going to deal with crime, if we're going to tackle crime, let's let's follow the steps. Let's follow the steps. We've said we got to deal with the family. We got to deal with the educational system, um, police, the government. But there is a lack of willpower by the governments to do what is right What are they hiding? What are they afraid of? Are you afraid that a government minister, a businessman will be implicated? A friend of yours, a family friend? We got to go where the report leads and free also the police so that they can get the job done. But like I say, everybody's just playing around, and the country keeps just getting worse and worse and worse and worse. And the citizens are not trusting the police or the government because, one, there is a report out there. It is being kept top secret. None of them want to do anything about it. And business as usual. Things just go on. Our young people are dying. We are just throwing little things at the crime situation in the country. And we wonder what the devil is happening in the nation.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree with you. And I think that you have to be righteous about it.
Yeah.
And when you're not righteous about it, then what it does, it builds distrust amongst the populace.
Mm.
And so it's incumbent upon all governments.
Yeah.
I think both sitting and probably opposition to sit down, figure this out, because it's everywhere I turn, persons are asking me about this report.
Yeah.
And so I'm not at liberty or privy to
No.
to disclose just the small portions of the report that I know about. But this is something that has to be settled within cabinet. It has to be settled in opposition and whole of government. Because if you don't, it's going to be just a cloud that's just following you everywhere. So if it's some criminality in there that they're not trying to expose, then for the sake of, if it's something that's perhaps may compromise national security or some intelligence issues in there, parts of that can be redacted.
Redacted, yeah.
Redacted and settle this piece about the police officers, and because you do have a point, policing did change, and the reason why I know that, because I was exposed to hundreds of police officers and had a very good sample size, and got quite a bit of an opinion from persons who said that as a result of impacts, that they didn't feel that they should be policing, that they were scared to police in certain ways, and which may, in fact, I think in some cases, caused the influx of crime, because police weren't, who were, according to them, were afraid to actually go out and do their jobs because they were afraid of being, afraid of repercussions as a result of it.
Yeah. Yep. But I just want to say to the public, we'll open the lines now because I don't want you on our first meeting to just have you here all night. With my people, they can stay all night, 2-3 hours. I'm not going to let them do that to you tonight. But I just want to let the viewers know that myself and Dr. Powell, we never discussed this before coming on.
Yeah.
The impacts report, I didn't know he knew anything about it. And this is just flowing right here on the air. This is raw media tonight. And I'm very happy, Dr. Powell, that, you were able to just speak, openly, not exposing any state secret or any private stuff. And we really appreciate it. I think this interview tonight means a lot to the people of St. Lucia. And I am happy as a professional. I'm happy as a professional tonight that you, Dr. Powell, was able to say, look, we got to deal with the report. Let's settle it. Let's get it out the way. Let's get it out the way.
True.
So that we can focus on protecting the citizens, freeing up the police to go out and do their jobs without fear, put new policies, follow the recommendations of the report. follow the recommendation, you know. Um, and so we're going to
And
open the
if
phone lines. Go ahead, Doc.
and if there are recommendations in the report that can't be followed, or it's or it's not in the best interest to follow, then that's fine. But just unseal the report and deal with it. That's all. Just deal
Just
with
deal
it and
with it.
get it behind you.
That's
Put it
right.
in the rearview mirror.
That's right. And St. Lucians will appreciate it. It will. St. Lucians will appreciate it. So, Doc, you made a statement, but let me get the lines open. Folks, the lines are open 929-586-1821. Dr. Powell is my guest here with us tonight, National Security Advisor to the Government of St. Kitts and Nevis. The number is 929-586-1821. The lines are open at this time. You are free to call, my friend. And Dr. Powell, you made a very important point that all parties, the government, the opposition, former national security ministers, former commissioner of police, all persons need to come together and talk,
Yeah.
sit
Yeah.
down. But it seems like some they're not willing to do that. But that is what is necessary right now for us to deal with this monster that is hanging over the heads of St. Lucia. We have a
Yeah.
crime problem. There are guns
We do.
coming into the country. There is drugs coming into the country. And nobody
You're right.
seems to know where it's coming from. Imagine a container comes into a country. Container of drugs is moved from the port, delivered to a private location, and nobody knows the owner. Nobody
Yeah.
in the country knows the owner of that container. Imagine.
You know,
Go ahead,
yeah,
Doc.
but let's be. But I want to just correct something. You just called me the National Security Advisor for St. Kitts and Nevis. You
What?
just promoted me. I'm the Special Advisor for National Security.
Special
Yeah,
advisor. I
the
do
doctor,
apologize.
the Dr. Lionel Rollins, the Honorable Dr. Lionel Rollins, very learned criminologist, is the NSA for St. Kitts and Nevis,
Great.
and I work alongside Dr. Rollins on the National Security Council, dealing with a bunch of issues. But yeah, but back to your point.
Mm.
But let's think about this. You're talking about the huge uh, container. What about the technology that first world nations have? The ones who claim that they're so much in support of us, ridding our countries of drug trafficking and so forth, that have satellite technology and capability that they could read the date on a dime on the ground from space. But the amount of support that we get from some of these agencies is somewhat questionable to me. It's somewhat I'm not saying that that there's some type of nefarious plan or some type of nefarious plot against the Caribbean,
Mm-hmm.
but I just question the level of support that we get from around the world, especially our first world nations. I think that they could give us a whole lot more support.
Yep.
But you're right. There are, you know, there's some corruption wherever we go, and there's, you know, incidences or situations within country where you say, well, how could that happen? How can these amount of drugs get in? How can these amount of guns get in
Guns.
undetected?
That's right.
Yeah. So, but we also have to have this conversation too. And I want to throw this in there before we had run out of time.
Yeah.
Haiti just thousands of prisoners just escaped from prisons in Haiti.
Yeah.
Those individuals are, I guarantee, a dollar to a donut. A large proportion of them are going to be trying to get on boats to go elsewhere.
Mm.
What are we doing to protect our porous borders, our waterways, and our so forth and so on? When we're already dealing with the remnants of 6 and 7 gang influence inside the country, and so forth and so on, and then we're going to bring in Haitian criminals who oftentimes are associated with violent gangs. And I know about Turks and Caicos in terms of how the Jamaican gangs and the Haitian gangs, the
Mm.
fierce violent rivalry that they have between each other. We don't want those. We don't want that. Nothing wrong about bringing in poor and distressed refugees as CARICOM nations and giving them peace and rest.
That's right.
But I'm talking about these hardened criminals who are going to be probably getting on flotillas because why would they stay in Haiti and and risk being recaptured and being reprisoned, put back into prisons? They want to get on these flotillas and try to go elsewhere.
Yeah.
And what if they land on the shores of Saint Lucia?
Mm.
What if they land on the shores of Antigua and so forth and so on? With those violent tendencies and with that violent those violent lifestyles. What do we do? What do we do? How do we counter that? And so this is why we need to get together. You know, persons in opposition, persons in government, persons in cabinet and opposition, past uh, superintendents, past um, uh, commissioners of police. All of us need to come together
Together.
and
Yeah.
being a part of the National Security Council and making some decisions in terms of how we're going to counter that. And that's what Dr. Rollins is doing now. We have a National Security Council meeting that we have every week, every week, talking about water shortages, talking about weather, talking about food shortages. What do we do in the
Wow.
event of this? What do we do in the event of that? And that's the forward thinking that brother, I'm telling you
Wow.
that SKN is all about. And like I said, we don't have all the answers, but we're doing the calculus.
And
We're
you'll get
working these
there.
problems out.
Yes, yes, yes. And that sounds, but yeah, and that concern is real with the escaped prisoners there in Haiti. It seems as though they have taken over the main city. We saw a few, maybe last week, escaped prisoners there in Grenada um, getting out of the a local police uh, precinct or whatever you call it there in the Caribbean,
Hmm.
and killing two American
Yeah.
tourists. The Vincentian
Heinous acts.
police authorities picked them up in St. Vincent, and that's a problem.
It is. It is. It speaks. It
Problem.
speaks to the. It speaks to the callousness. It speaks to the heinousness of individuals. And so that's. And I hate to keep going back and harping on Saint Kitts and Nevis.
But we love
But
it.
but the prisons, the least amongst us, is who we need to go and having conversations with on a daily or a weekly basis. And that's what I do. I'm constantly in prisons, having conversations with individuals in prisons about what we can do to support that pipeline out of prison. We know that there's a pipeline for our young people going into prison,
Yeah.
but we need to also create pipelines for persons coming out of prison as well. And that's what we're doing in the SKN. Is the rehabilitation. We're starting to ramp up rehabilitation and hiring more nurses and more physicians and
Mm.
counselors and so forth to provide that psychosocial, the um, educational, not to mention the vocational training that they need, so that once they're released out of prison, then at least they have a fighting chance. Those are the types of things that we need to be doing. And so, there's some in prison who belong in prison. And I've gone to prisons and told persons there's some in here who belong in here, but there are a lot of you who don't belong in here. And with the proper guidance and with the right opportunities, with the right capital projects, we can make a difference. And we can make a difference whether it's in St. Kitts and Nevis or whether it's St. Lucia, whether it's St. Vincent's and the Grenadines. Is if we start having strategic budgeting where we start to take money out of pockets of different ministries and putting them into a general capital project, a huge project, whether it's infrastructure, whether it's running fiber optic, whether it's mining, whatever it is, my brother, that will actually give our learned individuals who are in school an opportunity to get work and acquire a good career, but at the same time giving at-risk individuals and persons coming out of prison an opportunity to get back into the workforce as well. Because what are you going to do? Punish them, keep punishing them for the rest of their life? That was that. Look, the social contract said this: if we allow government to do its job, government imprisons persons who do wrong for a certain period of time. Once they've done that time, it's time for us to say, okay, you've done I haven't forgotten what you did,
Mm.
and what you did was hurtful, but I have to let you go back into society and go back into society and work. But when we don't create those opportunities, that's when we see the recidivism rates go up. That's when we see the violent crimes when they go in for robbery and then can't come back out and they can't find a job, and then they go in for armed robbery the next time, or an enhanced robbery the next time. And then the next time it's a murder. And so if that's because of lack of economic opportunities.
Yeah.
But that's something we're looking at in the Federation. And that's something that other countries, other island nations need to be looking at as well. Is creating that pipeline out of prison that we know so heartily that was created to bring individuals into prison.
Wow. Wow. That is good. And one thing I believe that that influence the rate of crime in any nation, it is poverty. Um, you know, and that's why we encourage governments of the Caribbean to do your best. Do your best, especially when it comes to taxes. You want to understand your people, where they are. Is it the
Yeah.
right time to increase taxes? What is going to be the effect on these poor families? And most of the times, I can almost guarantee you that once you put that extra tax burden on the citizenry, then you will surely start seeing an uptick in certain criminal activities. Then you
Well,
and some of them, you have
well,
farmers losing their crops,
mhm, yeah,
pickpocketing, shoplifting, and all these,
yeah.
you know.
Well, I don't know if there's a positive correlation between raising taxes and criminality. I do know that there's a positive correlation between unemployment and
Mm,
criminality.
mm,
And if taxation, if you're arguing, if the basis of your argument is that taxation, the rise of taxes for small businesses have run them out of business, which caused them to lay off more people, which have increased the unemployment rate, then that's an indirect effect,
yeah,
but not a direct or
not
positive
direct.
correlation
That's
between the
right.
two.
That's right.
You feel me?
That's
So
right.
so so yeah. So but what you said is right. Is that whenever there's any type of policy, whether it's tax policy, social policy, I think that interest groups coming together and having town hall meetings and having individuals come out and have a conversation about how this is going to impact us if you raise the taxes by 50 cents or by one
Brother
nickel or one
Garfield?
dime.
I do apologize. Could you hold that thought, Doc? We have a call on the
Yes,
air. Call you on the air. Go ahead.
yes.
Good evening, Dr. Powell, Brother Garfield. Good evening, everyone on
Good
the
evening.
live tonight. Brother Garfield, my question is a little bit what may seem out of this world, but I'm going to ask him just so that I can get his input on certain things that are happening around the world.
Go ahead, caller.
Because we're hearing that crime is a pandemic, aren't we?
Yes, yes.
Yep.
So
Some people have classified it as a
my
pandemic. Yes.
question is, he saying something?
Yes, go ahead,
I
Dr.
can't
Powell.
really hear him.
Sorry, the lines were down, but go ahead. Doc, you were saying something?
Yes, I was telling you that some people have classified it as a pandemic, but I would say it's somewhat endemic. But I get the point that she's trying to make.
Yes. Yep.
Okay, great. Dr. Powell, I I deep into research. Brother Garfield, there's a feedback,
Okay, are you hearing it still?
like an echo.
Are you hearing it still?
Um, yes, I am, but it's okay. Yes.
Yes, go ahead. Try to ignore it as much as you can.
Yeah, okay. So Dr. Powell, because I mean you're the expert in this. I do a lot of research, and my findings have been that there is a patented plan, simulation plan called lockstep. Hmm. Um, no, I'm not a conspiracy theorist. A lot of what they say is conspiracy is actually very true in our eyes right now. And when I read lockstep, I realized that it has a section of it speaks of civil unrest. So civilians are going to fight against each other for whatever reason, and states are going to be policed, etc. And that is all in a simulation plan called lockstep. When I look around me, I'm actually seeing in reality what I read in that patented, and it is patented, what I read in this. So I am just thinking, or I'm about to ask you your expertise. Is this what's going on? Is it really bigger than us, the layman, the normal person walking on the ground? Is this really something that is planned and is to be tested on humankind so we can all have police states, etc.? Give me some clarity. I mean, in St. Lucia, we're in the Caribbean, and yes, our K9 unit was removed. Our scanner at the port is not working. Our main entry ports it's not working. So of course we have very porous borders, and a lot of stuff will come in, including a container of drugs that we all know of that came in that was never that we don't know anything of. But having said all of this, we know that there's a lot that the government can do to protect our borders. But I am aching to ask, do you know anything about this patented simulation plan called Lockstep? And if you do, can you shed some light on it, please? I will listen off air so I can give somebody else a chance to call.
All right. Thank you, caller. Doc?
Thank you, caller, for that question. And I'm going to be honest with you. I do not know about the lockstep. And that's one thing about me. And I always tell my team this: don't ever be afraid to say I don't know. And so, in this particular case, I don't know. But what I do know is this: you asked me, is there something larger than us? And there is. And it's called transnational gangs. It's called transnational interests. And there are a lot of people who are making a lot of money off of trafficking guns and trafficking narcotics and trafficking of human beings. And so these are people who are not living in shanties in Viewfort. These are not people who are living in poor housing conditions in Micoud. These are not people who are these people have yachts. These people have the means of production. When you talk about the bourgeoisie and the proletariats, these are the bourgeoisie. These people control the means of production when it comes to criminality. And so what we have to do is, from a citizenry perspective, is we need to fight back. We need to fight for civic order, because look, societies run at its basic levels. Churches run at its basic levels. Families run at its basic level. And if we go back to taking care of family, protecting family, molding families, then molding your neighborhood, then molding your constituency, and then your entire country, that's what we have to go back to doing. But see, it's going to require a little bit of work, because what it does is it's overwhelming in some cases. But if we sit back and do nothing, then 10
Good
years, 15
evening.
years.
Good evening.
I'm sorry, Doctor. We have a caller. Caller, you're on the air. Welcome to Caribbean American News Media.
Definitely. Let me first take the opportunity to congratulate both you and Dr. Powell on this informative show thus far. Um, I must say, Brother Garfield, and it is public knowledge that myself and Dr. Powell, I consider him a brother
Mm.
and a friend.
Wow.
And I had the opportunity to work with Dr. Powell when I served as the president of the Police Welfare Association in St. Lucia. And during that time, it was unprecedented for the Welfare Association to take the bull by the horns and have a needs assessment and to see where we needed to utilize expertise outside of the service to present, especially the quality that we needed. And I was introduced to Dr. Powell about 7 to 8 years ago, and he began coming back to St. Lucia, and we started training, especially in one of the areas of great concentration was in human rights. Thereafter, we looked at the psychology of policing, and we kind of took it to the area of being able to de-escalate and being able to police law-abiding citizens. I want to say, Dr. Powell, indeed, based on my association with him, is a very genuine brother.
Mm.
And I could go on to say things which he may not want me to say, but this man is as genuine as they come.
Oh my.
And I think we St. Lucia lost. We lost to St. Kitts a mind that was willing to work with us from all indications. And I think one of the areas that we would have prescribed, especially to the authorities, was the setup of the National Securities Commission.
Mm.
To this date, we see nothing being sorted out. We see an increase in crime in St. Lucia, and we see the very same approach to leave it to either one person to squarely fall in their lap, and not present a position where you take more of a mixed model approach or a modality that provides for scientific study, a model that provides for a practical study, and a model that provides for an underground study. And so we see the movement in terms of how serious we are. And I think when it comes to the issue of crime, the issue of tackling crime, the issue of national security, I believe the best way we can tackle some of those issues is through a commission where we have people who are not just politically appointed, but people who are well and duly qualified to make representation on behalf of the citizenry of a country. And so when I heard Dr. Powell present the positions of St. Kitts, it makes me believe that we had such an opportunity presented to us that we did not capitalize on.
But what
and
went
so
wrong?
I,
What
I
went
am,
wrong, caller?
Well, there were many areas that went wrong that I would rather Dr. Powell speak about it. I think one of the first places we went wrong is to not have an appreciation for somebody who is qualified, and to not take to not treat professionals seriously. And so he probably can give a better insight, because I am privy, but I am still going to allow him to see where we went wrong in terms of not capitalizing on the opportunity, because Dr. Powell on numerous occasions would have spent his own finances to come to St. Lucia and do the trainings and not requesting a dollar
Are you
from the
serious? This
association.
is news to us.
And so you had somebody who, I mean, the man is a retired professor, retired. I mean, this man is retired so many places. So I don't think that the money was what that concerned him, and it was just a black man who was truly interested in seeing looking at the best interest of small developing island countries. And I think it is not too late for the authorities to re-engage Dr. Powell.
That's
I'm
right.
not sure
That's
whether he
right.
would send kids, but I think it would be wise to have him sit on a bilateral commission so that we
Mm.
can utilize his expertise with some of the local expertise on the island. Because I would lie, or I would present a false ideology to make you believe that there are not experts on the island. There are,
Yeah.
but to always have a a mixed approach in terms of regional, international, and local, it would give you a better understanding of some of the challenges that we face. So I think we lost an opportunity with Dr. Powell, and I'm sure um, re-engaging in terms of maybe not taking up the post in St. Lucia, but at least to utilize him for training using either the online or the in-person method
Mhm.
is
That's
still an
right.
opportunity that is available to us based on what I know and the kind of man that I know he is. So I'm sure he could enlighten us on the training or the writings where he wrote on behalf of St. Lucia when it came when it put into the human rights violations to the US government and other international media lines. He can probably give us his involvement in such a movement. But I want to say, Dr. Powell, it was a pleasure working with you. And if I am given the opportunity any day with my eyes closed and being able to allow him to lead me, I think he genuinely has the interest of policing, police officers, law enforcement, and national security at that. So I will allow him to make the discussion to make way so that somebody else could get the line.
Yeah, yeah, because thank you so much. But we promised Dr. Powell that we'll be here for an hour 45 minutes with him, and we'll allow him to to come back, or he can, Dr. Powell, let me not put words in your mouth at this time. I am shocked, honestly. I am shocked by this caller. I am speechless. But
Yeah.
Doc,
I will say this. I never in Officer Chico learned well from me because I told him that whatever problems you have within your house, you never bring it outside the house, and I
yeah,
won't ever
yeah,
disclose that. I
yeah,
wouldn't do that.
yeah,
And my dad always told me never piss upstream because what it does is it goes downstream. And so, what I will say is this: I'm currently on an appointment in the Federation of Saint Kitts and Nevis, and so it's difficult for me to serve two prime ministers, and I'm serving one now, and will continue to serve him until at such time he asked me to tender my resignation, or decide not to give me a contract. So I love St. Lucia, and if I didn't, I wouldn't be here
yeah,
having this conversation. But I will continue to, when persons call me, I get calls all the time from persons in national security, and I engage them and I give them advice, good advice. But they'll also tell you, they'll ask me a question, say, Doc, and I say, look, I don't know. I can't give you that, but I'll get back to you. It's nothing wrong with it. And that's the humility in me. So oftentimes people just make up something just to look important, or to look smart. But the wise man would tell you, I don't know, but let me get back to you. And so that's what I was taught. But I appreciate the kind words that Officer Chico and the confidence that he reposed in me,
Yeah.
and I love him all the best.
Wow. 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 So, St. Lucia, you had the opportunity, you know, to, you had an experience, brother, in your country, trying to help to make you safer, to help the system be better. And just like anything else, we sometimes despise the professionals and turn our backs. And very sad indeed, huh? And I would just I just want to thank Dr. Powell for his service to the nation. Yes, yet a lot of St. Lucians may not have heard of you, or, they may not know you personally. But based on what I'm hearing, you gave your best to the country. Now St. Kitts and Nevis, they having a holy time with you. And I hope I might not have to move over to St. Kitts and Nevis, where I
Hey,
can enjoy the fruit of your labor.
you have to come and visit. You have to come and visit.
Yes,
I promise
yes,
you.
yes.
When you do come and visit, I'll take you to some of the best eateries and some of the best
Oh, I love food.
spots. My brother, we have in St. Kitts and Nevis some of the most beautiful curvaceous mountains in the seas that the curves fold into, and it's paradise. And you're always welcome, my brother. You're always welcome.
So,
I think that the Prime Minister would allow me to say that on his behalf, that you're always welcome to the Federation.
and you know what? I hope that it sounds like an invitation
It
and
is.
accepted. So look for me sometime by God's grace over in St. Kitts and Nevis. But Doc, it was a pleasure being here with you. And I don't want to put you on the spot. Can you promise our viewers, because they're asking that you come back, another time, maybe that they can, make calls to you. Can you promise us that you will give us you'll grace us with your presence?
Yeah, I will. Hey, look, let me tell you something. I'll come back. Time permits.
Yeah,
National security is
yeah.
it's a 24-hour job,
Mhm.
and just so happened I had some downtime today. But I will. You can mark it. You can mark this on today's date in the calendar. That Dr. Powell promised that he would come back. He will make time to come back. And
Amen.
I wanted to also give say to the young lady who the first caller, she called me an expert,
Yeah.
and I every time I hear that word expert, I kind of get goosebumps. Like, no, I don't think I'm an expert. Expert
Yes.
to me, I'm just a humble person. I
Yeah.
will say I would be disingenuous, and I would be not only disobedient to what God has promised us. He says, "You knock, the door shall be open. Seek, and
Yeah.
you shall find." And I've
Yeah.
I've knocked on the door, and I've sought for wisdom through my education, and as a result of that, I found it. So while I think I may be a bit learned, I'll just I won't call myself an expert. I'll let other people call me that. But I do get goosebumps every time I hear persons call me
Yeah.
an expert.
Yeah. That's very humble of you, sir. Next week on Monday, I believe, uh, Mr. Human Gale Francis will be here with us on the platform. Former, I believe, Minister of Justice or Security there in St. Lucia. He will be with us, and I will mention your name to him, and I would watch his reactions. But thank you
Yeah.
so much, Doc, for being here with us tonight. You knocked me a little speechless, and you know, uh,
I hope in a good way, right? In a good way,
in a
brother.
good
In a
way,
good
a
way,
good
right?
way, a good way, good
Well,
way,
that's
good
what's up.
way. And St. Lucia's going to hear my voice loudly about developing better strategies and dealing especially with the impacts report so that the police can be free to do their work. And again, I want to thank you so much, Doc, for being here with us.
You're
It's been a
welcome.
pleasure to have you. Thank you so much. God bless you and your mission and your family. And God bless the people of St. Kitts and Nevis who are benefiting from our lost in St. Lucia. Yeah. So thank you so much, sir, for coming onto the platform. Any last
You're
words you
welcome.
want to say to our viewers?
No, I just want to just say to the good men and women of St. Lucia to be encouraged, stay encouraged, and allow God to continue to press the olive. There's a very laborious effort in getting extracting oil from an olive, and so what I want you to do is to just keep the faith. Don't give up on yourself. Don't give up on your family. Don't give up on your community. Don't give up on your schools. Don't give up on your constituency, your representatives, your government. Fight. Be righteous. Always remain righteous and tell the truth. And God will be your supporter. He will always support it.
Amen. So thank you, Doc, for being here with us once again on behalf of the people of St. Lucia, the viewers. Thank you so much for your service. All right. Thank you, Doc.
All right, my brother. All
All
right.
right.
Good night. Good
Thank you.
night.
Good night, Doc. Thank you. So, folks, that was Dr. Powell, a National Security Advisor, Special Advisor to the Prime Minister of St. Kitts and Nevis. Tonight, I will tell you, folks, that I was not aware that Dr. Powell knew anything about the impacts report. We are going to follow up. We have a call coming in here. Let's take this call. Caller, you on the air, Caribbean American News Media Platform. Greetings to you, sir.
Good evening, my brother. How are you?
Well, tonight is just a humbling night for me, and a night of revelation, information, and everything is just. I was not expecting, you know.
Me neither, man. I was so surprised tonight.
Yeah.
Must say it's a breath of fresh air listening to this man.
Yep.
You know, you can tell he's well versed as to his job,
Yeah.
and I must say, getting to listen to this man tonight made me realize that we lost two great leaders all at once.
Yeah.
I'm not saying there are not others, but just by listening to him tonight,
Yeah.
knowing that how much he was interested in actually, helping with the security of the nation.
Paying his own flights
And
to
it
St.
tells
Lucia.
me, and it tells me to, how much of a visionary leader Alan Shashmi actually is.
Yeah.
Because let me tell you something. I have heard that a lot from the elders when growing up. They say, if you show me your friends, I can tell you who you are based on the company you keep, right?
Yeah.
For Mr. Shashni to source this man wherever he was in the US, my brother, the plan got stopped. But I must say, from listening to this man,
Mm-hmm.
Alan Shashni had a perfect plan for the country,
Yep.
A perfect plan for the country.
Because he had the right advisors among him.
Exactly.
You know.
Exactly. And I think what happened was, along the way, people were thinking of all the nonsense that were being
hold a
spewed.
minute. Hold that thought. I just saw
Yes.
Brenton Smith, former member of the Royal St. Vincent Police Force, and my neighbor back in St. Vincent, Greetings to you. Thank you so much, Brother Smith, Brenton Smith. He's on the Facebook platform, folks. Let's greet him. Give him some love. He is also a member of the New Democratic Party, the NDP, which is a sister party to the United Workers' Party in St. Lucia.
Yep.
So,
Yep.
and I believe he's the PRO, is it, of the New Democratic Party, the government in waiting there in St. Lucia. So thank you so much. And he knows Dr. Powell. He knows him also. He's also, yes, he is a good man. Thank you, Brenton Smith. Folks, give Brenton Smith some love. He's on the platform from our sister party there in St. Vincent and the Grenadines under the leadership of Dr. Friday. Prime Minister in waiting, sorry. Yes, go ahead, my caller.
You have had a lot of great shows, I must say. But there was something about that show that was different.
Yeah.
It's not in a bad way,
Yeah,
it's a very, very good way. I just find like we needed more people on the platform to listen tonight. Because you see, I realize that when it's very important discussions like that, the numbers are less. We need people to come and listen to stuff like this because this is where you actually learn stuff. Now, you can tell this man is a real professional.
Yeah.
And I'll tell you why.
Talk to me.
Other guys would come on there and they would say certain things that they're not supposed to say. But this man, even if you ask him certain questions, he held his ground.
Yes, he did.
And he will not say certain things. And I admire that of him. And I wish we had more people like this. Because if the story is not for you to tell, then you don't say it.
You don't
and
say
Chico
it, yeah.
also came. Chico also came and he as much as he admired the man, there are stories that he himself know and he refused to say it because he realized it's not his place to say it.
That's
either.
Right. Yes,
right?
another good brother.
Another
Chico.
good,
yeah.
Exactly.
Yeah.
You see how you realize those things because you can tell by the way the men behave themselves. You can look at the way these men portray them, the whole persona.
Yeah.
I watch this man, how calm, how collective he is, and he's ready to answer any question, and he's very humble. He would this young lady ask him certain questions, and he actually told her like he doesn't know.
He don't know, yeah.
And I like how he actually sum it up at the end of the program by talking about that. It's always good to say you don't know for true because you cannot know everything. Mm-hmm. You cannot know everything. Listen, Brother Garfield, I think I don't know how. Maybe we need to figure out about that impacts report. We need to figure out why is it this thing is not coming out to the public.
Yeah.
And maybe if it does have to come out to the public, I would ask you too, if it ever come out to the public, I would wish for this gentleman, Dr. Powell, to come and really explain, not him alone, because there is Herman Gill. I would also like him to come and explain, because I've listened to Herman Gill, and I must say, Herman Gill is a man that is also very knowledgeable when it comes to that aspect of crime and security. I have listened to him many times, and there are a lot of things he say. I don't know if people are paying attention to it in St. Lucia. And I listen over here with crime fighting over here as well, because we have a huge problem in Canada right now when it comes to cars being stolen, right? And they created this. The government actually put in a budget as for the police to go fight those guys, So when I listen to Herman Gill and I listen to Dr. Powell tonight, you can tell these men are very knowledgeable when it comes to crime
That's
fighting.
right. Herman Gill is going to be on with us next week. What I want to do for the next 3 or 4 weeks, we're going to try to focus on national security. We're going to focus on...
That would be great.
Yes, we're going to
That
focus
would be
on
great.
the security of the nation, because that's a priority, I'm sure, for the United Workers' Party and for any serious government in the land. It should be. And I'm hoping to get Norbert, what's his name?
Jeremiah
Norbert. I'm hoping to get him on the platform so we can have a discussion also.
I was just gonna move to him, not to give him any flack, but you see, it would really be nice that when he had the opportunity to actually speak for the first time, that he would have had a different speech, because we keep hearing the same nonsense.
Same.
You understand?
Because the truth is, I don't want to throw him under the bus, but like Dr. Powell is saying, that we got to deal with the problem that is before us, not the problem that is not before us. And we see this government trying to deal with stuff that is non-existent, that are not, before them.
My brother, they have their reasons,
The impact
don't forget
report,
the container of drugs that came in, and we don't know
realize
when
I
they have
mentioned
their
it.
reason.
You realize I mentioned it tonight deliberately.
I was happy when you mentioned.
What I am going to push for on this platform, and we will push the government of St. Lucia and the justice system to deal with the impacts report, close that file once and for all, so that our policemen can be free to serve and protect the citizens of the country. Wherever the report is going to, whoever the report is going to throw under the bus, for the sake of St. Lucia, let them go under the bus. It is better one person go under the bus than hundreds of our young men and women die in the country.
Brother Garfield, you're so correct. You're so correct. If there is nothing in that report, right? And I'm just saying, I have never read the report. I don't know about it. I'm just saying, if there is nothing in that report that may impact any prominent person, or maybe government official or businessman, however you may call. Why is it, you cannot close that chapter on the police force and allow them, give them a bigger budget, and allow them to do their work? Because no matter what these guys are saying out there, and that's why I tell you, I had a problem with Jeremiah's, introduction into that crime fighting story, Philip JPM make, because it's another story, a big story again. You understand? Why is it he never mentioned anything to do with a budget? Because if you want to go into crime fighting, my brother, you have to increase the budget. There must be an allocation. Why they didn't go in the house to get financing for such thing? Where is the Marine police? Where is the K9? Where is the what's that thing they had on the scanner that's that's supposed to be at the dock? Well, you see, and these are few things. Why is it they cannot look into drones? Right? Why is it these guys are not coming out?
They got some donated to them, some drones. But Caller, while you're saying that, right? I will tell you that, and I don't want to ruffle any feathers tonight, and then bring the fellas on the set, and then they don't want to come, invite them and they don't want to come. Listen, I do not believe that Philip Japere understands what he's dealing with in the country, one. And you know why I would tell you that? Based on the appointment yesterday. Those new ministries that were established.
Yeah,
you do not need any new ministry. What you need is the implementation of a task force.
Thank you very much.
That money, because the urgent problem that we have right now is crime. It's growing, it's getting out of hand. Government, Mr. Pear, if he was serious about crime fighting, would put together a task force. Jeremiah Norbut does not have all that experience in the police force that they're boasting about. Ask any police officer in the country. The better thing for the government to do at the time was to put a task force together of retired officers, professionals, national security, former ministers, present ministers. You put a task force together to deal. You also have religious leaders on board. You have members of the business community. You have teachers, and allow them. You empower them, give them the finance, give them the constitutional power to go out there and do what they got to do. And you supervise as the Minister of National Security. But what he did is to give Jeremiah some new ministry to deal with crime prevention, when all he had to do was just implement the task force that is being recommended, or a command center. Task force / command center.
That's why they don't that's what when you say that the man is clueless, the man is really clueless, because that's what they didn't understand when it was around, when COVID was there in 2020, the way Shashne tackled COVID. Because I'm telling you, if it was these guys that were there, you see the numbers we have there, I'm sorry to say, it would be way higher in depth. Because this current government is basically telling us that they're clueless. My brother, if you want to start fighting crime, the first thing you do, you need to close your borders.
You need to secure
You
them,
need to secure those borders, my brother. That's the first thing you start doing. Because if you're not allowing any more guns to come in, you have a chance to fight it, what you have on the streets now. You understand?
Yeah.
That's where it starts. And any professional will tell you that. Because if you keep your borders wide open, and then you keep taking out guns, you know what you're doing? You actually taking those old guns these guys don't want, because that's what they will keep there for you to take. And then they replenishing their stockpile with, because these guys are there like the military. You see, I see stockpiles, because the type of machine guns that they use, you only see it in the military. You see, what the other problem that this current government have is, if they were serious about crime, Brother Gaspel, even if it was a new scanner would cost this country $10 million, they would get it and put it there. Because you know what? You cannot put a price on people's lives.
No.
You cannot do that. And it tells me clearly that this government is more interested in the jump up on the street and all the Wilele and the trips to Dubai and the going around. And,
they have invested more in those things, than crime fighting.
Precisely.
But look at it.
If you have a problem like crime,
look at their discussion.
Yeah, go ahead.
Look at their discussion with the removal of the dogs. It's too expensive, and it is a private citizen who owns the dog and not the police. Can you imagine? That they try to tie the $40,000 around the United Workers' Party neck to say it's too expensive? And who is the owner? Look at the owner. It's not even the police. Why the police can't have dogs? My God. The point is the police didn't have, and they needed dogs. So the government did whatever it was necessary to protect the citizens by getting dogs.
Exactly. Now, there are three idiotic statements that have been made by this government. One, while they were in opposition, they made one idiotic statement by mentioning that the the new hospital being built, about the box factor. The second idiotic statement is claiming that it is too expensive, to have the canine unit operating, And the third idiotic statement is to tell people that you put in them first when you know very well who you put in first.
Yeah.
These are all idiotic statements, my brother, because we can clearly see that these guys have no clue. They're visionless. Did you see what the housing minister put in the middle of Castries? You see, my brother, I wish we in the diaspora would organize and put lawyers together, because this government really need to get sued. Who's approving those buildings that are being built? You mean to tell me DCA is approving those things?
Yeah.
I have seen people build better houses in the country and planning come in and stop them.
Yeah.
They actually paid money to draw a plan for that nonsense and give it approval to. My brother, we need to see what is happening in this country. And I love the fact that you brought this man in. This man may not go into details and explain his job. Like I tell you, I notice he's very professional and I admire that of him.
Yeah.
You understand? But if we're intelligent people, we can see what is happening. If this man wasn't good at what he does, they wouldn't snatch him up just like this. They snatch up the canine unit.
And you hear
You
that,
understand
caller?
what I'm saying?
There's about 4 murders for the year in St. Kitts and Nevis. St. Kitts and Nevis. 4.
Okay. That tells you a lot. That tells you a lot. We allowed this government too much leeway, and I'll tell you why, Brother Garfield.
Mm-hmm.
As soon as these guys came in, what did they do? They expunged a lot of people, criminal people that had criminal records. They expunged that, right?
Yeah.
Some of these guys that they expunged their records, they're actually working with the government today.
Yeah.
Now,
that's why I always say you don't play with the law when it comes to politics. For politics, you don't do that.
Exactly.
Let the law be the law.
Exactly.
Anyone violates the law, they must be dealt with, because the halls
of basically.
Yes, justice must be separated from this political games. Mm-hmm. Justice got to be justice for all.
There is something that you and I know. Anybody that is threatening the lives of citizens in a country by means of bomb threats, they would be a threat when it comes to national security.
They should not be in government, whoever that person is.
They should not. Exactly.
They should not even be working in the police force either.
That person is working in the Prime Minister's office. Brother, in any other country or in any developing country, this government would not be where they are.
No.
I'm telling you that.
For instance, in the United States, if you're putting your name for political office, these guys are going to go through your entire life from a little child, from the time you were born. They come right up to the time that you are present. And anything they find between birth and now, it can bar you, it can stop you, disqualify you from working in any government agency here in the United States.
I wanna ask you a question. You recall when the previous administration went into the House to pass that law where the statute of limit to basically not limit the statute of limitation?
Right. Yeah.
You remember that, right?
Yes, I remember.
There was a lot of people that didn't like it. Who are those people that didn't like that?
Politicians.
Thank you very much. Now, if you have nothing to hide, if you know you did nothing wrong, why you can't support something like that?
That's right.
Why is it you can't support something like that? You see, in St. Lucia, we have too many people that think just because they have $2 in the bank that they can do whatever they want. But I will say there will be a time, if maybe I don't live to see that time, but there will become a time in St. Lucia where you and I, or the people after us, the younger generation that live in the diaspora, would love to go to St. Lucia to vacation, and that will not happen. Have yourself a wonderful day. Night, my brother.
Thank you, caller.
You know,
Yeah,
great
really
show as
appreciate.
usual.
Yeah, I really appreciate this call. Let's take one more call and then we'll end the show. I was going to end the show as soon as Dr. Powell was finished because I really want to go and reflect and do some reading. But I'm going to take one more call and then we're going to take one more call. Call you on the air, Caribbean American News Media.
Brother Garfield, thanks for letting me call back.
Yeah, no problem. Mm-hmm.
Wonderful show tonight. Brother Garfield, I was looking at Jeremiah Norbert when he was being sworn in. If we all paid attention, we would notice that Jeremiah Norbert spoke more of the disability part of his new portfolio than he did of controlling or bringing down crime in St. Lucia. I don't know if I'm the only one who saw that. Am I?
I saw it, and before you go further, I also heard the Prime Minister today say that he's responsible to supply the police with equipment, and Jeremiah is responsible for. I was a little confused. So national security is supplying the police with what they need, and prevention. Those two are the only aspect of crime fighting in the country. And so Jeremiah will deal with crime prevention, talking to people, and the Prime Minister will just give equipment and everything else to the police, and that's basically how it goes.
Funny because Jeremiah focused on disabled people, but never focused on crime reduction, which is the biggest problem in St. Lucia right now. And I noticed it. I don't know if other people did. So that tells me that that portfolio that Jeremiah is carrying, that's shared, I think, among three people now.
Mm-hmm. I think it's two.
Well, I say three because the Bavano lady, Virginia Poyot, carries national homeland security, right?
No, that's the Prime Minister.
That's the Prime Minister.
She's Home Affairs, I believe.
Home Affairs. Okay. So Home Affairs has nothing to do with crime reduction? Okay. Then we have the Prime Minister who carries national security. And now we have Jeremiah who carries disability and crime reduction. On the other hand, we also have the one Southeast who went against Guy.
Joachim
Henry's portfolio, isn't it also doesn't it cover disability?
Yeah. I believe his ministry is more about social development and stuff.
Brother Garfield, there is a bigger picture, and the reason why I brought this up,
Talk to me.
Listeners could see where this is going.
Talk to me.
Jeremiah was promised a ministry. There was noise made by the Mikud people about Jeremiah not receiving a ministry. There were excuses that he was going to study, whatever.
Mhm.
Jeremiah has finally been given a ministry. And pay close attention to this. Very close attention. So now the people of Mikud, they've been satisfied. Brother Garfield, the Prime Minister is meeting his promises. So I'm again asking, remember, Ian keeps asking that we pay close attention to the ID office,
Electoral Department. Mhm.
electoral department. Brother Garfield, people are going to call me insane. We have an election looming. We have an election looming. Because when I look at what Philip J. Pierre is doing, Philip J. Pierre is collecting a lot of money in taxes so that he's going to just push money in patching roads and whatever, and then start giving people monies like they're crazy. And then Jeremiah has his portfolio, start meeting small promises that he made to the population of St. Lucia, to the voters, and we'll have an election in St. Lucia later this year. I am convinced of that. Now, just to mention the K9 unit, Brother Garfield, the same K9 unit that was taken off our force with the scanners not working, Philip JPM made $70 million in excess last year. That's in excess. That's money that is untouched.
Mm-hmm.
Couldn't he have paid for the K9 unit, and couldn't he have gotten new scanners for St. Lucia? And these are just questions I'm asking. Where is that $70 million? Plus, we had a 2.5 tax that ends up being 7-10% extra. Do you understand? We've been paying more money, but we're not seeing anything happening in St. Lucia. Higher taxes and nothing is happening, and St. Lucia is broken. Where are these monies going to? And remember, over $1 billion has been borrowed by this administration. But Garfield, St. Lucians, watch your bread.
Mm-hmm. Yes, indeed.
Watch your bread. There is something bigger looming, and we need to pay attention to it. And we also need to continue giving this government enough pressure so that they can start doing the things that they need to do with all the high taxes that they've charged us in fuel, the high cost of fuel that has never gone down, in the high cost of goods and services, the extra taxes, the extra monies that they've collected, and all the monies that they've borrowed. We have no account of any of the monies, passports that have been sold. We have no account of anything. St. Lucians, watch your bread. Brother Garfield, let me leave it on that note.
All right, thank you so much.
Thank you very much.
All right, and to our listeners, it's been a pleasure being here with you on the platform. Thank you so much for being here with us. And I'm trying to fix our Tuesday night program because there is a program that I believe a lot of you are interested in. And there's a young lady who comes on Tuesday night, I believe at 9 o'clock. So I am doing my best to give her the space so she can have her program. We cannot be selfish. So we would yield. We will stop at a certain time. On Tuesdays, we will end the program at 9 so that she can start her program at 9 o'clock so that we will not disadvantage you. But we look forward to our next program. Just keep your notification bell on. We might be coming in with some breaking developments. I believe on the new Deputy Speaker of the House of Assembly there in St. Lucia. Just watch this space, and I suspect that there will be a little issue there with the Constitution and the government of St. Lucia. But I want to thank you so much for sharing, for liking, for following this program. Stay with us as we continue to bring you the news and developments that matters to you, the citizens of the country. We look forward to Mr. Herman Gale Francis coming on next week. That is going to be another interesting show. And we are going to continue to dig until we get more information on the impacts report. The impacts report, we are going to stay on it. We're going to stick on it. And we're not going to come off until something is done about the impacts report. That if this government does not touch it or do anything about it, we're going to hold the United Workers' Party accountable for this report. We're going to hold the United Workers' Party. We're going to ask them to guarantee us that the impacts report will be dealt with under their new administration. So God bless you, folks, and stay good. Be kind to each other. Love your neighbor as yourself. Teach your children to do the same. Teach your children to be patriotic. Teach your children to be obedient. Teach your children to respect the authorities of the land. Teach your children to stop bullying other children, and teach some of your adult children to stop bullying people and him-pecking and messing people's character up. It's time for us to put an end to this dysfunction, this nastiness in our country that is disabling us, crippling us as a nation, and making us look so bad to in the presence of our neighbors and other major developing countries. We got to do better, folks. And people are watching, believe it or not. People are watching. Good night to you. I have a very important meeting tomorrow concerning the development of the country, St. Lucia. So we are doing our best. I'm doing my best here for free. I'm doing my best, friends, in not just talking, but finding the experts, finding the information wheresoever it is, and bring it here to you, the citizens of the country. It only gets better here on Caribbean American News Network. We also are booking Ian Allen out of Trinidad and Tobago on Crime Watch. We are working on that. We will give you a date when he himself will be onto the platform. We're working on it. We're also finalizing with the Sugar Association of the Caribbean. We're working on them also, but we'll give you the lineup as we get confirmation of those names that we've mentioned, the above names. Blessings, folks. May God bless you as we help to build a better and a brighter St. Lucia for all, a safer St. Lucia for all. Blessings, folks.